And we are now live.
All right, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, folks. Thank you for getting together on relatively short notice. This is not a big issue, but it was certainly time for us to get back together and everybody get up to speed. We have an agenda that's outlined and we'll walk through that quickly. I'll let the professionals lead us through each of the items on there that are unique that we need to review together. And at the end of the meeting, we simply have to decide what we want to do with regards to updating the full county council on our proposed debate. So a relatively simple meeting. So I'll call the meeting to order. And with that, we need to approve the agenda. So just wave a hand. Who's doing the minutes for the meeting today for us? Is that you, Julie?
Victoria, will you be taking the minutes for us?
Okay, thank you. Victoria, if you need anybody to slow down or to say their name out loud, just yell at me and we will slow down. We'll slow down and make sure that happens. So we have a mover and a seconder for the approval of the agenda. All in favor, just kind of wave your hand in front of the screen and that'll work. That's carried. It's a little easier with a small group like this than trying to do county council. So we don't have to do the recorded vote for some of these things. Some we will record if necessary. Also, you were sent out the minutes of our previous meeting, which was back, I believe it was January 22nd. And we need a mover and seconder to approve those. Moved by Tom, second by Dave. Okay, all in favor? Okay, the minutes are approved. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move right on to required design changes. The first item is the insurance and bonding. Who's going to run with that, Jim?
Mr. Chair, if we can actually, I'll start with 5.2, the other changes first. Caroline,
not a problem.
Can you put up page 8 for us from the main agenda? And while that's going up, I'll just start to give you a little background. We've had 4 changes to date. The first 3 were related to changes in the storm sewer. Those actually added almost $1,300 to our contingency. The contingency started at $1,418,000, and so now we're at $1,419,500 after the storm changes. The change there that you see is change number 4. That was the last change. That was a change to the 5 balcony columns, and that added $1,575 in cost. The net impact then is across the 4 changes was $293 of use of the contingency, bringing the contingency down to $1,418,000. So we can pause there if there's any questions on the details.
Okay, if I anticipate questions, I'll go around the table for the committee members, the county council members on the committee. Otherwise, I'm just going to let you just jump right in and if you have a question. Does anybody have a question on this one? Okay, I don't think there's anything that pretty routine. Thanks, Jim.
We'll move on to bonding next. Carolyn, can you put up from the first addendum, page 2? And here are the details of the changes in the bonding and insurance costs from 2019 to 2021. I mean, we've seen outside of this project, insurance is going up at a rate greater than typical inflation. So this isn't really surprising. So over that 2 years, we have just over $53,000 of escalation in insurance and bonding prices. If this change gets accepted by the committee today, then that would bring down the contingency to $1,365,000.
Okay, does anybody have any question on this? Again, this is relatively routine and not unexpected. And when we're talking contingency, we're not talking about going back to county council for additional funding. We're talking about containing it within what we have set aside. Right, Jim?
Yes.
And just to give a little more context, we had an escalation contingency, which is included in the total that Jim is referencing. And this is certainly well within that escalation contingency budget.
Okay, so is everybody happy with this one too?
Yeah, we have all experienced it at the municipal level, so it's no surprise.
Okay, thanks, Jim. We can carry on with that.
Yeah, so with this, I'd like to propose a motion that the insurance and bonding use of $53,309.20 be withdrawn from the contingency.
So
Okay,
move.
So moved.
and the seconder,
Marks.
okay, all in favor? Yeah, I think have we lost Mary's feed? I'm just kind of asking if she's still there. No, she's still there.
She's still there.
Okay, no problem. Okay, that is carried.
Then next we'll get into the building changes from the second addendum. Can we bring up page 5, please? And then David, do you want to talk to it?
Certainly. So the east end of the north and south bedroom wings are actually half a meter closer when measured east to west than the construction drawings that we based the building model and the design on. So what that means is that the north half of the addition has to stay where it was, and the south half needs to slide half a meter to the east or the right of the page. The several solutions were considered, and at the end of the day, the least expensive, which is estimated by D Grant to be in the $20,000 to $25,000 range, and this is still just a budget, but a conservative budget is $25,000 from D Grant, is to slide at the south end of the north lounge, slide the south part of the building to the east. It actually has a slight improvement in the line of sight from the care center out the lounge door to the exterior. And it eliminates a bit of a blind spot in the south corridor from the lounge because we had a vertical service space or a mechanical chase, in layman's terms, that had projected into the corridor. And so the shifting of the south half and the north half of the addition relative to each other has marginally improved line of sight. Otherwise, there'll be no visual perception of any difference in the building design or even the building footprint, so that this is the best solution. There were other options of adding in space in the north half of the addition, but there was really no benefit to putting additional space into the two bedrooms that are immediately adjacent the north wing existing. Maybe I'll stop there and answer questions if there are any.
Yeah, I'll just jump in for a second in case we end up with anybody in the public during our meeting. All of the members of the committee, including the members from County Council, got the material ahead of time, so they're able to review and do their homework and understand the recommended options that have been set out to everybody. Therefore, these meetings seem to run a little quickly, and if you're jumping in for the first time, it might be a little confusing, but the homework has been done. Seems to be the most economically viable option. And anybody that has ever gone in to do renovations on an older home will know that you end up working around the sins of the past and accommodating as you go along. So hopefully once this connection is done as outlined, we're into all new build pretty much, except some renovations in the main building inside, which are usually not as problematic. So does any member of the committee, I'll start with the warden, do you have any comments or concerns?
Bob, it's very logical. I support it.
Okay, and Dave
No, no problem.
and Mary? She may be on mute.
Sorry, Bob, having trouble with my computer. I apologize.
Yep.
I don't have any problem whatsoever with this. It makes sense.
Okay, Jim, sounds like we're able to move on from that one. Do you need a motion or anything?
Yes, the proposed motion is that up to 25,000 from the contingency reserve be allocated to accommodate for existing building dimensions.
Okay, we'll have that one moved by Mary and seconded by Tom. When I arbitrarily do that, if you don't want to move it or second it, just yell at me. Okay, all in favor? And that one's carried. Okay, next item.
Next item is tender still to be awarded. From the addendum, page 8, please, Carolyn. And Al Taylor, if you can speak to this.
The tenders closed in December, as everybody knows, and we finalized our budget moving forward on January 22nd. And part of the process for our construction manager, D. Grant, was to review all the tendered bids to make sure that they are complete and compliant. And we've been awarding sub-trade contracts throughout this process. So there's still a number of them that the list that's showing there. One of the larger ones is architectural millwork. I think that's a fairly significant dollar amount. The other ones are, I think, help me out here, Dave. I think they're very much in a smaller dollar value.
Yes, and maybe the bigger picture is, and Daryl, you might have the numbers in front of you, but that the pluses and minuses as details were resolved with the low recommended trade have not in any way consumed the escalation allowance that we had set aside as a part of the construction budget. So that's the good news story.
That's correct. We're currently on track based on the overall circulated budget as previously accepted.
Okay, this item is pretty much for information for the group. Does anybody have any concerns or comments? Basically, we're on budget, but these items are open items and we'll never know until we get around to actually doing them, what it actually does end up costing, so. Okay, everybody's pretty happy with that. We don't need a motion for an FYI, I don't believe.
No.
Okay, next thing, Jim.
Is the HVAC. Daryl, do you mind giving us a verbal update for the committee?
Okay, so for the first HVAC unit relocation, it was as scheduled for yesterday. It transpired successfully and unit has been relocated. It is operational and is under control. So one unit down successful. The next unit based on that is scheduled for relocation for tomorrow.
Again, good news basically, but it's good to have you updated a little bit. It's a little harder for us when we do these things virtually and we don't just jump in the car or truck and do a drive-by to see some of the things going on. So it's good that they kind of mention these things to us, okay? Next item, please.
Is the construction schedule, it's included in your package. One is a one-page summary. The other is multiple pages and highlighted are the items that are coming up over the next 3 months for your information. If there's any discussion that people would like to see it, we can pull it up on the screen. Otherwise, we can move on.
Basically, we are on schedule. We're not, don't have any concerns about the overall schedule that we had in mind, and things seem to be moving fairly smoothly. So do any members of the committee have a problem or an issue? Doesn't look like it. We'll move on to the next item, please.
I have a provincial update, and Al, do you want to speak to this one?
Certainly. We submitted our initial estimate of cost based on the January 21st construction costing that we had from D grant. And we were granted approval to construct on March 31st. So that's very good news that we're going ahead. The ministry is on side with what we're doing. And subsequent to the approval to construct, a few of us had a virtual meeting with our project manager from the ministry on April 8th to go through next steps. One of the items is to finalize the development agreement. The ministry is working on a revised development agreement form that won't be available until July. And some of the revised dates that we've had, because our tender period was pushed back a little bit because of COVID. So those dates will be updated. And I think there's a new funding model that is scheduled to the development agreement that will also be included in it. There were a couple of changes to the original plan. The occupancy plan submission is required 6 months before the first resident moves, and the schedule for the first resident move is July of 2022. So the occupancy plan will need to be submitted in December of 2022. We'll be working with Michelle and Gail to develop the plan and all the details that go with it. 2 months prior to the first resident moving in, there's a review of the plan. And I believe there's some additional detail required on who's moving, when, where, and some of the finite details that gets residents from the existing building into their new residence. And I think that's pretty much it for the update.
Okay, again, we thank you for that. As the committee knows, we did jump the gun a bit on some of the physical work that we got done, but it's been kind of with the nod or wink from the ministry, and they've caught up to us now, and that's helpful for all of us. You know, there's none of that uncertainty around. Just for Michelle and Gail, you don't see any problems at all meeting any of those deadlines for the occupancy plans and whatnot?
No, thank you, Councillor Purcell. We have already put dates in our calendars, Gail and I, to start planning in August. So we'll be very well prepared by the time we need to submit.
Okay, that's great. So I don't think there'll be any questions from the committee, but again, are there any questions from the floor? Doesn't look like it, Jim. We can move on.
Mr. Chair, the next item would be other business if anyone has any.
The only thing I would like to do is I think the simplest thing we could do, the minutes, I believe, from this meeting will be relatively simple like the other ones. Do you want to, we might not have a meeting for a while, so I personally have no problem with the draft minutes going to all of County Council as just a FYI update. Unless, Jim, you want to do a little report and point at them, which it's good to let County Council know that things are running smoothly, that we're basically still on budget, and that nobody has got out of line or shot anybody yet. So it's always good to at least keep them in the loop a little bit.
Mr. Chair, I'll prepare a report for your signature.
Okay, that'll be great. Is that okay with the rest of the committee?
It's good.
Okay.
Yep.
It'll be a quick summary. We won't get into all the details, but you guys have got some of the background. If anybody does have a question, we can answer it in open session. Hey, anything else, folks?
For the date of the next meeting, if the committee is comfortable with the way we did it last time, which is when an issue or opportunity arises, we can call a meeting at that time, just like we did with this meeting today.
Follow the chair.
I'm good.
Everybody's fine with that? Okay, that's fine too. We will do that. Jim, you seem to have us pretty well trained, so I'll get a quick motion from Mary and from the warden to adjourn. And all in favor? And we're adjourned, and it's been a pleasure as usual. We'll let you all go back to real jobs. Thank you.
Take care,
Thank
folks.
you.
Take care. Bye now.
So long.